Before you start, you need to know the rules. We've split this video into 4 difficulty levels: easy, hard, nightmare, and impossible. The vast majority of viewers are too scared to make it past easy. We want to know how far you can go. So when it's over, drop a comment and tell us which level you reached. And just so you know, a jump scare could hit at any level. Now let's begin. The display. Let me get one thing out of the way first. I'm not the kind of guy who believes in ghosts. Never have been. So if somebody came to me with the story I'm about to tell you, I'd probably roll my eyes and say, "Sure, buddy, get some sleep." But it happened to me. And I still won't work a night shift alone in an empty building. So something happened. That much I know. My name is Dylan Harrington. I was 31 at the time, and my life was a mess. I was in the middle of a divorce, my rent was always late, and I was applying to anything that popped up on the job sites. There was a store closing down in an old mall just outside Youngstown, and they needed someone for overnights. 14 nights, $18 an hour, and the listing said, inventory and teardown. The store was shutting for good, and somebody had to go in, count everything, and pack it all up. Anybody who knows that mall knows what I mean. It was called Whitfield. Used to be the biggest one in the area. By the time I started, maybe 4 stores inside were still open. The rest were dark shops behind steel grates, a fountain that had gone dry, and old Christmas decorations hanging from the ceiling that nobody had bothered to take down. My store was the last big cabin on that sinking ship, a 2-story clothing space. The name doesn't matter here because it's gone now. The night they hired me, the manager handed me a huge ring of keys, wrote the alarm code on a scrap of paper, and said, "There's a kid working upstairs, too. Marcus. He handles his own thing. You take the ground floor." My job was simple. Empty the racks, scan and box the product, break down the fixtures, and then there were the mannequins, 12 of them on the ground floor. I was supposed to strip them, pop them apart at the joints, pull off the arms and legs, and bag them in these long black bags, tagged and ready to ship back to the warehouse. Nothing happened that first night. I should say that too. The mall closed at 9. I came in after that, worked until morning. That first night was actually kind of fun. The whole empty store was mine. I put on my own music, Credence coming out of the speaker, and I started naming the mannequins. The one up front near the display window dressed real nice. I called her Brenda. I don't know why Brenda. Her face reminded me of an old manager of mine. I put one of them in the fist pump pose, like she was cheering me on. I even took a picture. Everything was funny that night. The second and third nights went the same way. I'd found a rhythm. Tiring, but peaceful. Working alone in an empty store isn't as scary as people think. At least not at first. The weird stuff started on the 4th night, except I didn't even call it weird back then. I just got mad at myself. I'd finished the women's section that night. 5 mannequins there, all stripped, popped apart at the joints, bagged and laid out on the floor. Then I went to the stock room for a fresh roll of bags. Maybe 10 minutes. Then I came back. Brenda was standing up. I mean, she was still dressed and standing straight. I hadn't gotten to her yet. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was this. Brenda always faced the display window, looking out. Now she'd turned toward me. She was staring right at the corner where the 5 empty bags were, the ones I just finished. I yelled for Marcus, something like, "You moving the mannequins, man?" No answer. I checked my phone. 1:30 in the morning. I texted him. 10 minutes later, he wrote back, "I clocked out at 12, bro. Upstairs is done. Ground floor is all yours." So I'd been alone in the building for hours. I came up with an explanation, of course. People do. Maybe I never moved Brenda at all. Maybe she'd been facing that way the whole time, and I was remembering it wrong. My sleep had been wrecked for 3 days, sleeping in the day, working at night, and your brain plays tricks at that hour. I grabbed Brenda, turned her, put her face back toward the window. "Good night, Brenda," I said out loud. My own voice rang strange in the empty store, and for the first time that night, I wish I hadn't let the credence stop. The 5th night, I paid attention on purpose. I was going to start with Brenda. That was the only thing on my mind. But when I got down to the ground floor, Brenda wasn't at the window. She was in the men's section, standing between the racks, one arm up in the air, posed like she was setting a shirt on a high shelf. A woman's mannequin in the men's section, like she was working. I'd cleared that shelf the night before. Now there were 3 folded shirts on it, shirts I had boxed up. I stood there for a few seconds. My heart was going, but my head was still hunting for an explanation. Could Marcus have come back? I tried to call. His phone was off. I checked the alarm log. Nobody had come in after me. The cameras hadn't worked in years anyway. Nothing in that store worked. Just me. I tried to get Brenda out of that pose. When I touched her, her hand was warm. A mannequin's hand is cold. Plastic is cold, but hers was warm, like somebody had just been holding it. I lowered the arm, took the shirts back, and dragged Brenda down to the floor. "Okay," I said. "I'm finishing you tonight." I opened a bag, spread it over her, and pulled the zipper shut. Then I moved on to the next section. Figured if I just kept working, everything would go back to normal. I was counting women's shoes, looking down at the scanner in my hand, and behind me, in the quiet, I heard the zipped-up bag rustle. I turned around. The bag was empty, laid out on the floor, open, empty. And my box cutter was gone. I'd set it down 2 aisles over a minute ago, on the counter in the women's section. I started looking, scanning with my eyes, and I found it. It was in Brenda's hand. She was in front of the display window again, standing straight, facing me again, and at the end of her outstretched arm, between 2 plastic fingers, was my box cutter. She was holding it out toward me, like she was handing it over. I held my breath. The store was dead silent. I took a step back, then another. Then the scanner slipped out of my hand, hit the floor, and that sharp plastic crack went off in all the empty space. And Brenda's head turned toward me. Up to that point, her body was facing me, but her head was still toward the window. With that crack, her head snapped around, one fast motion, and her face was 10 inches from me now. Those painted eyes looking straight into my eyes. I screamed. I heard my own voice in the empty store, alone, screaming. I don't remember what came next in the right order. I backed up, slammed into a fixture, sent metal crashing everywhere. Then I got to my feet. The store had changed. The other 11 mannequins. All of them. The ones I'd bagged, popped apart at the joints, laid out on the floor. All standing now, and not one of them was looking at me. Every one of them had turned toward the front, toward the registers, like the store was waiting to open. Like they were waiting for customers. The lights I'd shut off were on. Those fluorescents over the women's section, the ones I'd unplugged the night before, were humming away bright. And under that light, Brenda wasn't at the window anymore. She'd moved behind the register, hands on the counter, leaning forward a little in that classic, "Welcome, come on in" pose. There was no expression on her face, but I could see the expression anyway. She was on the clock. That's when I understood, and I wished I hadn't. Because that thing wasn't chasing me. It had never cared about me at all. I was just an intruder who wandered in at the wrong time trying to take its job. Those mannequins didn't want me to close that store. They didn't want the store to die. They wanted it to stay open, the lights on, somebody standing behind the register. For 13 nights I'd been trying to tear their store down, and every night they'd been putting back together what I took apart. I grabbed the keys and ran, got to the front. The gate was halfway down. I slid under it. My jacket snagged. I left it. I ran through that dead, dark mall corridor, past the dry fountain, under the dusty Christmas decorations. I didn't look back. When I reached the side exit, an alarm had started going off, but nobody came because whatever the alarm was wired to had been shut down years ago too. I got in my car. My hands were shaking. Took me 3 tries to turn the key. Pulling out of the lot, I couldn't help it. I looked at the store in the rear view. It was dark. Then, while I was watching, the lights inside came on one by one, bottom to top, aisle by aisle. The whole store lit up. And in that display window, right up against the glass, a figure stood. It raised its arm. It waved from the window of a closed, emptied-out, dead store at 3 a.m. It waved at me. I never went back to that job. Didn't call the manager. Didn't even collect my pay for the last 2 weeks. A few weeks later, I saw it on the news. Whitfield Mall was being demolished, and the report said, all fixtures and store equipment have been removed. Removed? So somebody finally boxed up those mannequins. I hope they had better luck than I did. I'll say one more thing, then I'm done. My jacket stayed in that store that night. I know it did. I snagged it on the gate. I left it there with my own hands. But last week, I opened my dresser, and in the bottom drawer, folded up, there it was. And there was something in the pocket. My box cutter.